Okay, another video today from the English countryside. We're in West Lancs again. It's basically an absolutely perfect day for filming and a perfect day to be out. I mean, May is one of my most favourite times of year. I think it's when the world is just so full of life. Everywhere's so fresh. Of course, we have the ever increasing daylight as well. And everywhere is just absolutely bursting into life. Wonderful to see. So we'll take a walk down this interesting looking path here. We'll see where we end up. And today I want to do a video about garden centres. It's the right time of the year to talk all things garden centre and why they're so enduringly popular. Let's just have a look here first. I mean, look at that, it's gorgeous, isn't it? That's the hawthorn there, which is everywhere at the moment. It's very striking, very beautiful plant. And then opens out here, this kind of country gate opening out to a clearing. Probably someone's, I think there's a cottage just behind the trees there, so this is obviously on their land. You can see the copious amount of bluebells as well. Absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? So here we go. I mean, you can see just looking here in the last few weeks how overgrown this is all becoming now. How wild it's looking. Show you this hawthorn again. It's absolutely magnificent, isn't it? So garden centres. I might do another video actually at a garden centre, which would be good. But when I went earlier today, there was just too many people there. So I kind of decided against it. Probably would have been a bit too self-conscious, to be honest with you. Just turn around and have a little look back there. So the first reason why garden centres are so popular in England is because gardening is enduringly popular in this country. There's, I suppose, what are the reasons for that, really? I think probably it primarily relates to the climate that we have, which is basically a mild, benign climate, and quite soft landscapes in general, quite fertile soil. But certainly the climate is mild, is benign. We don't really get very many extremes of weather in England. Occasionally we do, but not many. And rain is spaced evenly throughout the year. So long dry spells are relatively unusual. Maybe every 2 or 3 years we'll have a dry spell of at least, say, 3 weeks. And interestingly, we are in the middle of one right now. We did have a little bit of rain last night here, but it's been dry for about 3 weeks. But generally speaking, we have a mild rainy climate interspersed with sunny spells, so it's the perfect conditions for flora, fauna, for flowers to grow. And gardening's been popular, has always been popular in England. You only need to step outside and you'll see, wherever you are, some gorgeous gardens. And it's been a pastime for generations. It's a very common sight in England when you're out walking on a day like this to see people tending their gardens, pulling weeds out the soil. At this time of the year, planting, bedding out plants, vegetables, tidying up outside, just lovingly tending to their garden. Makes you feel good, it makes you feel connected. I've got a lovely garden and I like to garden as well. I like to grow things. So when I was at the garden centre this morning, I'll flip it round so you can see my ugly mug for a minute. When I was at the garden centre this morning, I bought, what did I buy? I bought some French beans, some carrots, some onions, something else. Things that are relatively easy to grow in the veg patch, you know. And some more, I think I got some begonias and geraniums and lobelia, I think. And again, get them planted in the pots and they just do their thing with limited intervention, really. I mean, obviously we do need to make sure that they're kept well watered at all times, because the sun can quickly dry out. Even as I said before, we get regular rain, but a couple of hours sun in June and July and the soil gets very dry, so they do need regular watering. So in this country as well, we have organisations like the Royal Horticultural Society. We have regular events, flower shows. There's a big one at Tatton Park, one at Sandringham. There's one close to me in Southport Flower Show every year. So this idea of flowers and of gardening is kind of central to British culture, to British culture. It's roots of England, but it's similar in, if you're watching from other parts of the UK, you'll identify with what I'm saying, I'm sure. So I'm just kind of traipsing through this wild area here. So where was I? Garden centres, flower shows. Yeah, so gardening is very central to English/British culture. We are a nation of gardeners. And why is the garden centre important? Well, and why is it still very popular, particularly with older people? I'll come to that in a minute, why it's mainly, well, not mainly, but there's a lot more older people represented in garden centres, seemingly, from what I can see. Well, first of all, obviously it's a place where you can buy high quality plants and flowers. And I think as well, the second I step into a garden centre, and there's quite a few near to where I live, there's just this sense of serenity. There's a lot of people looking for that now. Serenity, peace, a peaceful atmosphere, a place where there's not noise, you know. And garden centres are one of the places where you can achieve that. Very calming, very soothing. They're kind of a feast for the senses as well. You can smell the floral notes of the different flowers. You can see the absolute kaleidoscopic blaze of colour, hanging baskets from the ceilings, just beautiful plants on tables as far as the eye can see. And there's kind of like just a gentle buzz of conversation in there. I suppose that's it's a quintessentially English experience, really, to go into a garden centre. And many garden centres have diversified now, which will divide opinion. So there's not so many of the traditional garden centres that are just that. They just sell all things for the garden. Although the one I went to this morning locally to me is one of those. Just a local garden centre, basic, but selling high quality flowers and plants. But in the last 20 to 30 years, you've had big organisations such as Dobby's, British Garden Centres. There's a couple of other big chains as well, where obviously the focal point is they're appealing to people who love being outside and who love tending to the garden, but also different homewares, cafes, delis, restaurants, catering for different needs and expanding the range of products and services that are on offer. So does that take away from the kind of the atmosphere and the original intention of the garden centre? I mean, yes and no. But it's nice, always nice, to have local businesses. You know, so for garden centres where you go and there's not a cafe, there's not a restaurant, they're not selling other things, you go in to buy for your garden. I do find it interesting though that it does seem to be a pastime primarily, gardening, for, I want to say older people, but maybe 60s onwards, which I suppose that that figures in a way, because it's going to be a popular pastime for people who've retired. So that's quite an interesting observation that I do make. I'm just seeing where I can go over here. I don't see too many younger people in garden centres, and I do have a theory myself actually that, there we go, no. Because while I said before how amazing and how beautiful it is to see the very verdant gardens that are really visually appealing and that are gorgeous and that are a feast for the eyes, and there are many, there are far fewer than there used to be, because sadly, particularly in the last 10 to 15 years, sadly a lot of gardens have been ripped up, and in their place has gone either astroturf, driveways or decking. Certainly at the front, places for people to put their all important cars and the wheelie bins as well. So that's quite sad really, because whilst I still do see lovely gardens, when I walk around by where I live, I would say 50% of front gardens are no longer gardens, and that's very sad. And what does that kind of show? I think it shows a disconnection that between humans and their natural environment. And I think the practice of trading green space for concrete, slab of concrete to put a couple of cars on, that says it, that kind of says a lot about what our culture has, or certainly to a large degree what our culture has prioritised. Pursuit of wealth, materialism, corporate culture. There's so many cars on the road now, it's ridiculous. So sad that there could be more of these beautiful gardens, and that there were. Certainly when I was young, sound like an old timer there. So let me know if you're someone who gardens. How important is gardening to you? What do you agree with what I've said about my thoughts on garden centres and why we see fewer gardens now? I'm reading a book at the moment called The Road to Little Dribbling. It's by Bill Bryson, and it was written in 2015. And he talks, even you're talking 10 to 12 years ago now, he writes about a few of the points that I've mentioned there. But one thing he does also say as well is that the great thing about England is that it just wants to be a garden. Show you this again. And nature does quickly reclaim any land that it's been dispossessed from. But he makes some points in that book. If you've not read it, by the way, I recommend it. he travels around the UK. His first book was probably his most famous one, Notes from a Small Island, was written in 1994. And again, he travelled around the UK, so a couple of decades later he embarked on the trip again, and there's certainly some pointed differences between the two books spanning those two decades, really. So, just show you around here again. And if you are someone who's interested, okay, if you're someone who's interested in English, traditional English culture, in English heritage and customs, English nature and countryside, then do join us in our school community. It's free to join. Just click the link in the description. We've got nearly 60 members now, so we're growing all the time. So if you're somebody who really appreciates England and admires its gorgeous countryside, its village greens, its pubs, old churches, ancient landscapes, then do join. We'd love to see you there. And let me know what you think of this video. I might try and go to a garden centre in the next couple of weeks and do another video. Maybe I'll get there early before anybody else gets there. I can show you around one, so that would be good, wouldn't it? I'm just going to quickly show you a little bit more of this lane. There's an amazing old cottage here. That's wisteria growing outside it. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. And it really is a joy to be out at this time of the year, this kind of weather. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment, and I'll speak to you soon.